And here we are, one of the, in fact, probably the worst Chalice dungeon section you'll ever do in this game, the Defiled Chalice dungeon. Why is it so bad? Because your health is halved, and so you're fighting incredibly tanky bosses that will very easily one or two shot you if you make so much as one mistake. You don't see it so much in this fight, but in the second one, oh boy, you'll see that, that's for sure. It could just as easily happen with the Keeper of the Old Lords here, but the thing is, I just know the moveset so well, I can not only punish the moves I'm looking for, but I can also bait them out very easily. Because of the way this AI behaves, if you do enough damage, even from a distance, they will do that sword swipe, which is very easily parried, and that's... As much as it's not a huge amount of damage for this character, it is safe damage. I can get that damage without any sort of counterattack fucking me over. Which is the thing that will get you killed more often than not when you're doing these sorts of Chalice dungeon bosses. Trying to get damage in to punish an attack, and then their recovery's so good that they just go and kill you straight away. This boss, however, because of the fact you can get the first roll attacks in, you can take as long as you want and get pretty safe damage in. So there isn't an awful lot to say, it's just a matter of getting the consistency right. I don't really like fighting bosses this way, but with bosses that can kill you so easily, you have to fight them in the safest way possible, because otherwise you are just going to keep dying after every 10-15 minute attempt and just wasting your time. See, that was just one hit right there. If that follow-up hit had attacked, that would have been GG. I would have to have started over again. That's why you have to play really fucking safe in the Defiled sections, and why they're so bloody irritating. And that's enough of that, you've pretty much got the gist. With this boss kind of demonstrates everything that's wrong about the Defiled Chalice dungeon, and I will go into more detail about why in the actual successful attempt. For now, however, you'll just have to enjoy me dying over and over and over. case, then that should demonstrate more than enough how devastating this boss's attacks can be. I would go to say that the damage this boss does isn't that... It isn't the big deal, it isn't the big problem of the boss. You know, like, if this was not a Defiled Chalice, this boss's damage would be a lot, but it wouldn't be the one-shot, like, fuck you that it is in a Defiled Chalice. The problem is that this boss just has... It has a lot of moves that have a really, really dodgy hitbox. Which means that when you try and dodge it, you'll take counter damage, and that will definitely one-shot you. And then the second problem with it is that there are very, very, very few attacks that are safe to counterattack without yourself getting counterattacked and one-shot. So you have to play it very, very, very carefully. If you're doing this boss yourself and you're like, what the fuck do I even do? What I found was best to attack was when the dog swings its head up to its right, going down to its left. Because even when it does the counterattack, it's very easy to avoid compared to the sequence it will do from the other side. And you can also keep attacking the same leg over and over to get a stun on it, which is one of the few ways you can get like combo damage in. The other one is when it does a charge, but that's again not really consistent because of how much distance this thing can cover with that charge. And the other one is when it does the lava, it just spews the lava on the ground. That's a good way to get damage in. Other than that though, every other single move this boss does is unsafe, and if you attack, it can and very often will counterattack and one-shot you. So this is why in this successful run you're seeing me do this over and over again, just trying to bait out the same attacks that I know are safe, or at least safer than other attacks. Because if I don't, then all the effort I do is completely wasted because I will be one-shot. You can see how that wouldn't be a hell of a lot of fun to do. I think, even with all that said, the Defiled Chalice boss... well, the bosses in the Defiled Chalice would be okay if, like yourself, they didn't have a huge amount of health. So they could easily one-shot you, but they couldn't take an awful lot of your hits, so it was a matter of... once you learn the boss, you can get through it very quickly as long as you do it very well. But if you don't, then you're just going to get obliterated. That'd be acceptable instead of what it feels like this is, which is like fighting with Glacier or something. It takes so fucking long. Another thing I'd also say about this boss is that I never, ever figured out how to deal with the leap attack it does in the final phase. I was blessed that in this successful run, he never did that. Because if he did, I would have died. Like, 100%. I don't know the timing on or the spacing on dodging it. I don't know where's safe to go when he does the leap. It's unbelievable. I have no idea how to deal with that. If any of you guys know, please let me know. Because I've never, ever managed to dodge that well. This is not a fun boss to fight whatsoever. You should probably already guess by my tone and the fact this took some ability attempts to do. But, yeah, this is the successful run. It is sped up 2 times for the sake of your sanity and mine. So I guess I'll leave it at that. So, after that horrific mess is done, there's the final boss, which isn't actually... I don't know, this boss... The difficulty of this boss kind of depends on how difficult you found this boss in the main game. Or, like, whether you got hit by it a shitload or not. Because this is basically, as you can see there, ABG, Amygdala. And because of the fact that this is in a Defiled Chalice, and you can only take, like, 2 hits or 1, and this guy can take, like, several, like, 50 or 60 or whatever. Don't really count them. It's very much a test of how well do you know this boss's moveset, and can you avoid being hit? And because I've fought this boss like 50 squintillion times, I have way more experience fighting this than the Watchdog. This boss could very easily be another Watchdog or Lord if you're not used to fighting Amygdala, because it has the same fucking problems as that boss. But because I know the moves well enough, I don't die nearly as much. As you can see, when you do get hit, you pretty much just get 2-shot. But if you don't, then no big deal. And that's really the difference, just knowing what moves are safe to attack and how many moves are safe to attack. And with Amygdala, there's thankfully quite a few ways to get damage on them without really taking a hit in return. For me, I think I talked about it the first time I fought this boss in the main game. It's basically just, in the first stage you keep your distance, dodge the sweepy arms, and focus on doing projectile damage, or a move like this, which has a lot of recovery time, just going in and smacking them in the face. And yes, even this late into the game, the Tonitrus is a fucking fantastic weapon for arcane builds. After I did all this, I went and put a Blood Rock into the Tonitrus and it out-damaged my fucking Ludwig's Holy Blade, which I was just staggered by. This thing is nuts. But, its durability is absolutely crap, unfortunately. Oh well. Oh well, you can't have everything, can you? The second phase is even more screwy with the hitboxes, but the strategy is pretty much the same. The third phase is where things radically change in terms of what you actually end up doing strategy-wise. I'm not sure I could provide great advice for the third phase, because it's just a matter of I got used to the timing of the jumps, so eventually it got to the point where I didn't even have to really pay attention to what I was doing. I could just listen for the audio cues and then just time it from there. And I knew as long as I dodge roll forward, not only would I not take damage, I would be able to go and hit the head, and so on. It might just take learning or something, but another thing you can do if you don't feel like doing that is still staying underneath him, but just going and hitting the arms, and whenever he jumps up in the air, just sort of lecking it away, or something like that. But I don't know, the timing for the jumps is not that atrocious, and there's plenty of bosses that do that sort of thing. I've mentioned before, I don't like bosses that jump out of your line of sight and then crash straight down on you. But I've dealt with it so many times now that a boss like this doing it is not really that big a deal. It's not like Ludwig where there's 2 different timings, it's exactly the same time. So, I hope if you struggle with this boss, you find this video at least useful for seeing what I do with it. If not, then good luck, I guess. This is the last one to Defile Chalice, so thankfully it's nearly over. It's nearly